Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast right here on the Winner's Circle Sports Betting channel, brought to you by our sponsor, GamblersWorld.net, where you'll find 10 of the finest handicappers anywhere in the country, including myself, Jesse Schule, and Sean Higgs, all three of us here today. And we're going to be discussing Game 3 of the NBA Finals, which will take place on Wednesday. And today is Tuesday, the 11th. So we're taping 24 hours in advance of the game. And we're going to give you our best take in terms of Jesse's got some props. I got a total. And Sean has a first quarter pick in this game. So, and we'll go from there and give you our analysis. But before that, folks, don't forget to like our video. It goes a long way with our sponsor in keeping these videos free. It also goes a long way in showing your token of appreciation for the time, work, and effort we put into bringing you a quality podcast 5 times a week. And, it's like tipping a bartender without having to take money out of your pocket. So it doesn't get any better than that. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. There's a subscribe button right underneath. Also, a WC logo in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you are watching on your PC, that serves the same purpose. And after subscribing, I would highly suggest, and if you have subscribed and haven't done this, I would highly suggest going into your YouTube settings and clicking on the alert notification bell for the Winner's Circle Sports Betting channel, and you'll be notified immediately upon any of our podcasts going up 5 times a week. So there you have it. Let's get to the meat and potatoes. Let's say hello first. It would be rude for me not to say hello, Mr. Schule, who called me at 2:40 in the morning today. And Sean, I just want to let you know how fortunate you are. Jesse had something to discuss, and he called at 2:40 in the morning. My wife now said that Jesse's on probation, because he woke us up. And
the phone rings at 2:40. You think somebody's dead?
Yeah, exactly. But I bailed him out and said he's in Thailand. He probably lost control of it. And then he says he butt dialed me. So again, butt dials are the best. Anyway, Jesse, I'll give you time to pull yourself out of a hole right here.
Well, in my defense, it's only 1:40 in the afternoon in Thailand. Yeah. And I suspect one of my children was playing with my phone. I'm going to blame it on the kids.
Yeah, I'm sure maybe your daughter, because I think Ricky's probably more astute with that kind of stuff. So, and I know I've seen your daughter on video trying to emulate you, and watching what Daddy does on video, and she's such a doll, man. What a cute little girl. Yeah.
We've fallen on tough times over here, Ross. The picks haven't been that great this week, and it's resulted. We had to grill some Australian AAA strip loin the other day rather than the normal Wagyu. We go with, I got to say, it was pretty good regardless, but we're hoping to improve on the results and get back to the Wagyu next week.
Yeah, I took it on the chin yesterday, boys. I had Toronto in the first 5. They were down 2-1 after 5. I had the Edmonton Oilers. I thought they would bounce back in game 2 and look good for a while, up 1-0. But boy, 4-1 final. And it's like after watching the first 2 games, you wonder, again, you don't want to overreact, but geez, Jesse, Florida looks like much the better team in the series.
Yeah, no, I had the Oilers last night as well. I was concerned about Stuart Skinner coming into the finals, but it's hard to blame him. I mean, they're just not scoring, and if this team can't score, they're not going to win too many 1-0 hockey games. So
it's not that. Go ahead, Jess. I'm sorry.
Things can change fast when you get back to Edmonton, though.
What concerns me
if they can get back in the series.
10 shots on goal to eliminate. They're in the conference final in the elimination game. They only had 10 shots on goal, but still managed to win the game. They've shown very little pressure last night. Now, albeit they did hit the post a couple times, but Florida just looks like the better all-around team. It's just they're doing all the little things right, and it looks like Edmonton's that type of team. If they can't force the tempo and get you into that up and down type of action, they're lost when they come against a disciplined, close checking team like Florida. But anyway, Sean, enough about hockey. How are you? You're coming off a great day yesterday at the site at Gamblers World, going 7-1. Great day, my friend.
And I had a hockey win. I had the under.
Yeah.
So I jumped back in. It was a little rough run. I'm like, I can't keep sitting on the sidelines here. You got to stick to what normally wins here. And like you were saying, they're not getting shots on goal. It's Panthers. You know how the Panthers are going to play. It'll be some kind of 3-1 type of game anyway. I was like, I got to fire on some hockey here. So I got a hockey winner and a good day of baseball. A couple run lines. I think the easiest game I had yesterday was that Seattle Mariner run line game. You know, when you talk about just putting the bed in and sitting back and, you know, easy breezy lemon peasy. Boy, doesn't really get much better than that one there.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm a Fetty guy, and I like Fetty, and I'm like, you know what? His road splits are terrible. There's no way I figured Seattle's going to get him. I'm thinking it's a 4-1 kind of game. Seattle doesn't really hit too much. I look at that. Are you kidding me with that game? Holy cow. If you had the White Sox who had the White Sox yesterday anyway? Let's be honest with that. But, I had them the other day when Fetty pitched on when they were lost 8 in a row. But, yeah, good day, baseball. I'll take it. You know, it is what it is. Doing pretty good with baseball on the sites. Maybe you got a little turning point here with a couple hockey games left to end on a winning streak. And NBA, here we go. We'll be talking about this game. So you're talking about underachieving and overreactions. Here we go. Dallas and Celtics. I'm sure people will be overreacting, right? Get out the brooms. I know we've got some comments. We don't know what you're talking about. If you like Dallas in a game, you're crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know, folks. Let's.
Yeah, I took Dallas in game 2 and as a free pick, and I got them at +7. Some people had them at 7.5, but people lose sight of the fact they come in and they start talking about how could you go against Boston at home, folks? We're not trying to pick. We're not ESPN. We're trying to beat a number here, and I don't know how many times I could say that, but when you take a team +7, +7.5. It's not you're picking them to win the game. It would be nice. You look brilliant if that happens, but you're taking the points for a reason, And anyway, Jesse, we're going to talk with you on the props for game 3. And by the way, folks, right now as we speak, and again, folks, we're taping at currently it's 10:10 a.m. Eastern time on Tuesday the 11th, and the game doesn't go till tomorrow night, Wednesday the 12th. So these lines that we're going to use today are subject to change depending on when you view the video. So keep that in mind. So if you watch it 24 hours after we record and there's a line move, there's always a smart ass or two that comes in and says, I don't know where you guys are getting this line. But anyway, right now, Dallas is a 2-point favorite, Jesse, and the total is 212.5. But you have 2 props, and I'm going to let you take it away without stealing your thunder here.
All right. Well, I did have Dallas in both game 1 and game 2, and no shortage of hate on the internet for me about that, calling me a casual, you don't know what you're doing, and all this stuff. And of course, I did already admit that we had to eat AAA strip loin instead of Wagyu due to those losses. But if you feel you're making the right bet and it loses, do you make it again the next time? And for me, the answer is yes. I'm not afraid to admit that I'm wrong. But let's face it. Game 2 was decided in the final seconds. There was that controversial block that could have been called a foul. It landed right on the number, so you could have won, pushed, or lost. We weren't far off in game 2, is what I'm saying. But the one bet that I did make in both games 1 and game 2, I'm going to go back to, and that is the Kyrie Irving head-to-head matchup with Jason Tatum. And it's just simply a matter of the numbers just continue to paint the same story. Kyrie, unfortunately, it does seem that he's cursed when he goes to Boston. What is he, 0-12 now in Boston? He could 0 for whatever in both games 1 and game 2 from beyond the arc. Couldn't hit a 3-pointer. But at the end of the day, he's still hitting 40% from beyond the arc, and Jason Tatum's hitting 28.9% from beyond the arc. Kyrie's hit more three-pointers. He's
You're
averaging
talking
more.
about the entire postseason, right? So to
I'm
clarify.
talking about the entire postseason, yeah, from the first game of the playoffs. So Kyrie, he's made more three-pointers in total. He's averaging more per game. He's shooting for a significantly higher percentage. They're coming back to Dallas. Dallas is a 2-point favorite. Dallas has shot so poorly, and Boston has only been marginally better. The numbers are what they are, and it's a pick 'em, just Kyrie versus Tatum. Tatum was 1 for 7 from beyond the arc in game 2. Like I said, just 28.9%. He shouldn't even be shooting them, really. He continues to throw up a lot of three-point shots. He's not hitting them. I got to go back to the well with this one and try and get a winner with Kyrie eventually. And I think this is a good spot to do that. So Kyrie, head-to-head matchup with Jason Tatum, made three-pointers, minus 115. Tell me I'm crazy, Ross.
No, you're not crazy. I mean, again, when you're into the finals, okay, it's not like the first series or the first two series where you say, look, shooters shoot. And Jason Tatum's a much better three-point shooter than his percentages show so far. But now we're into game 3 of the NBA Finals, and he hasn't turned that aspect of his game around, albeit I thought he played a terrific game in game 2. I thought his defense was outstanding. He had double digits in assists. He did score double digits, but well below his season average. But now we're talking three-point shooting. And Kyrie, I don't know. I mean, the bottom line is there was a couple threes there that were in the in and out variety kind of thing. So it's not like he's, clanking them off the rim. And we know he's a better three-point shooter. And he has been a better three-point shooter throughout the playoffs at 40%. You would think a guy who's hitting at that kind of rate, over the entire playoffs, once in a while you're going to have a clunker. I mean, it's not like going 60% from the free throw line. By the way, Sean, and I'm going to let you comment on this. It would have made it a lot easier for us, Jesse, if Dallas would hit the free throws. And that's been an enigma of them throughout the playoffs. I mean, this is a team that's hitting less than 70% from the free throw line throughout the playoffs, which is mind-boggling. But, Sean, I'll let you comment on Jesse's pick and what I just alluded to in terms of poor free throw shooting.
Well, I mean, let's just talk about the free throws. I mean, 12 and 19, terrible. 67% in their other game 2. You're an NBA team. What are you doing? I mean, 67%.
You're an NBA team in the finals, Sean.
Oh, don't get me started. I had Dallas in game 1. I didn't come back in game 2 with them because I was like, you know what? I don't even know. I'd expect them to win, but it was just something seemed off. I was like, let me grab them here. I think on one side I had a 7.5, one side I had a 6.5, one I had a 7. It was all over the place, that number. And as Jesse said, it fell right in between there. Are you impressed with either one of these teams? I'm not. As Boston's won, they haven't looked good. They haven't looked good winning. It's a combination of both teams. Is it both teams' defenses? Listen. Going back to this 3-point shooting here, Kyrie 0-3 and 0-5 on a road there. You expect him to come home, as Jesse alluded to. What's he, 40% to 29%? If Dallas has any shot of making this a series and not losing 4-1 or 4-2, you better shoot better than 7-18 and 6-19 from the field and 0-8 from 3-point range. From where's the other off? This is why they're losing. No one is scoring for Dallas. So yeah, I agree with this with Jesse. Home court, take care of business here. And if you're as good as what people think and kind of hyped them up coming into series, I go. And I'm on it. I'm on a Kyrie bandwagon. I got a Kyrie 9-1 MVP ticket, thinking he was gonna come in here with a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah. Well, as Yogi would say, it's getting late early.
It's definitely not a chip.
Yeah,
it looks like a little tic tac or something.
Yeah. All right, Jesse, you have another prop you want to discuss with us?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw this comment from Jason Kidd, but they were asking Jason Kidd about the Celtics, and he said, Jalen's their best player. And that made a lot of waves, and I really like to see that because that was a little bit of mental warfare there from Jason Kidd trying to stir the pot, suggesting that Jaylen Brown is indeed the better player than Jason Tatum. And you know who's going to respond to that? It's going to be Jason Tatum. I mean, there was that controversy when Brown won the Eastern Conference MVP. Tatum didn't look pleased, and it felt like he was trying to goat Tatum into, maybe taking bad shots or getting emotional about it. As you mentioned, Ross, Tatum played a good game anyways, but 6 of 22 from the field. He's not scoring. Brown has been the better player, and we're not just overreacting to game 2 or game 1 and game 2 or this year. It's the entire postseason. Brown has been the more reliable player than Tatum. I know Tatum had some decent numbers against the Pacers, but I will mention in game 1, he scored 10 of his points in overtime, and half of those came at the free throw line. Up until it was Brown that hit the game-tying shot. So in my mind, Brown is basically becoming the go-to guy for the Celtics, and for that reason, I'm looking at his points total here. It's a low number. It's 21.5. Now he landed on 21 in game 2. Prior to that, he went over this number in 7 of 8 games. Like I said, with Tatum coming off a 6 of 22 performance, Brown shot quite well. I think he's the go-to guy. I think he gets his 22 plus points. So Brown over 21.5 points, minus 120.
All right, Jaylen Brown over 21.5 points. I can't disagree. And I also can't disagree that Jaylen Brown is definitely the better player than Jason Tatum. I mean, right now, I mean, Jason Tatum's a great player, right? But you look at what Brown does, Sean, not only offensively, the guy is a terrific defender and a terrific rebounder. I mean, I remember the one play in game 1 where he stripped Luka Doncic clean. He's blocked shots, and he's defended on the perimeter with a lot of tenacity. And he's a scorer, and a guy like that, his all-around game, I think, is much better, not much better, but better than Jason Tatum, especially the way Tatum's lack of scoring, inexplicable lack of scoring compared to his regular season numbers. Especially, Jesse, you mentioned he had some good games at the tail end of the Indiana series. And Sean, you know what? Dallas is a hell of a lot better defensively than Indiana is. As a matter of fact, 29 teams this year were better defensively, statistically, than Indiana. But anyway, your take, Sean.
Yeah, I don't hate this. For either one of these guys, if you're going to give a low total, even a bad game of a poor shooting game for one of these two, and again, this is Brown or Tatum, either one. I know we're just talking about Tatum's 2.5. But I don't see either scoring less than 20 points, right? I mean, this is basically a pick 'em for this guy to score 22, which is he's scoring, 24, 25 in the playoffs?
Yeah. The only thing that I would say negative about Jaylen Brown, right? Free throw shooting. I mean, he's under 70% for the postseason, which is mind-boggling when you compare it to his regular season numbers. So that's the only negative point I could bring up. And again,
that's why I just popped up his last 10, so I want to see how he shot free throws on the road. 3 of 6, 3 of 4, 7 of 8, 0 of 2. So, I mean,
not terrible, but if you look at his overall free throw shooting since the postseason began, way under what his regular season numbers are. But again, we're not asking him to score 25, 26, or 27. We're asking him to score 22 here.
And he goes to the basket. He's shooting 54% from the field. So, you got to feel confident. And even his three-point shooting is not terrible either in the playoffs, like 35, 36%. So,
yeah.
I like it.
I like it too. So, Jaylen Brown, I definitely agree with you, Jesse. I know I've given you a hard time about Jason Tatum, but Jaylen Brown to me, and I said this when we discussed the MVP thing, topic last week, that I thought Jaylen Brown was, when he went from even 5-1 to 2.5-1, I thought it was still a good play at that point. And again, we saw the overreaction with Porzingis, came off great game 1. He went from 50-1 down to anywhere from 5 to 10-1. and people overreacted, and it was a gross overreaction because, as we see now, he came up a little bit lame in game 2. Come on, folks. I mean, a guy missed that kind of time. He's injury prone. He has one good game, and you want to anoint him as the next MVP of the finals. In any event, Sean, you have a first quarter bet here for us in Dallas and Boston game 3, and take it away, my friend.
Yeah, again, like I just said, we're talking about overreactions of teams. You're down 0-2. The sky's falling. Here comes Chicken Little. And I like to say, you hope in one hand, poop in the other. See which one fills up first. It's usually stinky hands. Do I want to do the Mavericks for the game here? Do I think the Mavericks get a game at home? Why wouldn't I think they get a game? I still think that Luka is the best player. And I still think that they were in 2 games. Maybe not the first game is so much, but the second game they were kind of there. Can they get a second score? They need somebody to score. We're talking Kyrie. And I'll take them first quarter here. If you're not going to come out in the first quarter and they're -1, money line's -130. If you can't win this first quarter, send in the clowns, folks. It is over. If they get down, I don't know what kind of heart they're going to show in this game. They'll probably be all granted, it's the finals. It's not over. You take 2 at home. It's 2-2, and you're going back to Boston. It's a different series. I don't know. You're going to come out and get beat up in the first quarter. I'm worried about you coming back and winning for the game. So I'll go first quarter here. I need, Luka's going to do his Luka stuff. But where is Kyrie? He's the key to this team, to not only winning today, but if they're going to make this a series. We brought up his 3-point shooting, 0 of 8 in the 2 games, a combined 13 of 37. That's like 35, but that's not going to cut it in the finals. The team already had problems scoring. So give me the first quarter. Only way I can attack it. I'm a little leery. I know we all, or at least me and Jesse, I think you also, we sort of thought Dallas would give him a run, make it not easy. Get it done here at home. I'm going to say first quarter. You have to get it done here.
Yeah, or you have to at least come out and show, like you said,
some heart.
Yeah.
Yes. If you're down 0-2, you have to come out here in the first quarter and win this first quarter. I don't care if it's 29-19. I don't care if it's 19-17. If it's an ugly one, if it's ugly, so be it. You have to at least show some urgency here.
Yeah, and you know what? Historically, teams down 2-0 coming back home have been a good play, especially in the first half. Here's an interesting one for you, Jesse. Since the 2003 playoffs, home favorites down 2-0 in a series, and they're coming off back-to-back losses in which they scored less than 100 points, like Dallas did in the first 2 games. They're up at the half in 34 of those 44 games. And when you're looking at the first half line is exactly the same as the game line. I would think that maybe even going beyond Sean's -130, you might even want to entertain just in case you have a lackluster you have a poor shooting you're playing with heart and you have a poor shooting first quarter. I like even more so going with Dallas as a halftime bet here. But anyway, go ahead, Jesse.
Yeah, I love it. I like first quarter, first half. And I like both the first quarter and the first half better than the full game, just seeing what we saw in the previous series for the Celtics. But in game 3 against the Pacers, they did get the doors blown off in the first half, and then they were able to come back. But, everything points in that direction. Like you said, these long-standing trends, teams down 0-2 coming home as a home favorite. And it's understandable because the team that's up is not, they don't have anything to prove. We've seen it from the Celtics. They already know they've been blown out in the first half of these games only to come back and win. They've got nothing to prove. It's better for the league. I mean, I know Ross doesn't like to talk about this too much, but get Scott Foster in there, get a few whistles going their way, and it doesn't necessarily need to be a conspiracy theory to say that home teams should get more favorable calls than when you're on the road. I like Dallas first quarter, first half. Absolutely.
-155 first half money line.
Yeah, that's sort of high.
And you could lay 1.5. It's minus
Yeah,
1.5, minus 150. Think
that's
about
an
that, folks. In
that's
NFL, you'd be laying a 3.5 or a 4 to get up into the 155
yes,
range. And
exactly.
you're laying 155 on a 1.5.
Wow. To me, they're
That's
giving you the winner there. You know.
well, we've seen them adjust to these especially in the playoffs. We've seen the books move these. The first half line is the same as the full game. It's still 1.5, 2, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And yet you could lay 125 for a full game or 155 for a half.
Yeah. What's the first half total? I think it's 110.
I didn't have that in front of
Yeah,
me
I
here.
think the
I got the
first half total's 110 and the game total's 212.5. So again, it's one of those situations where you got well over 51% of the first half total to the game total. And you know where I'm going with that there. But I'm going to talk about, I am going to talk about the total in this game, which is 212.5. And I am going to have a play on the full game in the first, as far as the total goes. And let's discuss that right now, guys. The Boston Celtics, like I alluded to, they won the first two games 107-89 and 105-98. The totals in the first two games were 217.5, 215, and now it's down to 212.5, and rightfully so. If you watch the complexion of both games, the lack of pace for both teams in terms of tempo, neither team getting to the free throw line an absorbent amount of times. And here's the thing: home teams down 2-0 in an NBA final. I have allowed 95.7 points per game since 2003. So let me repeat that again. Home teams down 2-0 in an NBA finals. They're only allowing 95.7 points per game in game three since 2003. Dallas, by the way, this is only the fourth time all season long in which they've had back-to-back games where they failed to crack the 100-point barrier. And in the previous three, all three of those games went under the total. The average total of those games was 216, and the average combined score was 195.3. So it's not like they're coming back with a high-scoring game after substandard performances offensively in back-to-back games. Boston, this is the sixth time this year they held opponents to 99 points or fewer in back-to-back games. And in the following game, they allowed just 101.1 points per game. And again, home teams down 2-0 in a playoff series. And their point spread is plus 2.5 to minus 2.5, like this one is right now. The total is between 203 and 221. It's right now, it's 212.5. And I'm a numbers guy, you know, and I know that's some parameters that people go, okay, you know, that's a little confusing. No, it's about beating a number, folks. And what happens when we're in that perimeter with the results we saw from the last two games. And in those situations, the home teams have played 8-0 to the under in the playoffs since 2019, an average of 216.2 as a total. And the average combined score was exactly 200 points. I'm going Boston and Dallas under 212.5. I know the public has been enticed by the fact that the total sequence here, game one, 217 down to 215 and now down to 212.5. It's the old, okay, it's down to 212.5. They're due to have a high scoring game. And I'm not, guys, you know, I don't catch the river card or the straight on the river card when I have a 2-3 in a 6 and 7. So, or 4 and 5, I should say. But whatever the case, you know what I'm trying to say, guys. I am going to go with Boston, Dallas under 212.5.
Well,
Listen,
listen, I'm as a guy pulling for the Mavs. I want points here, so I have no real opinion. I need the I need the Mavs to score here. So I'm hoping it goes over because I want 65 points in the first quarter. I want something ridiculous to save my bet and to have the Mavericks look like they're actually should be in the finals and not they fluked their way into beating a bunch of teams or somehow here by accident. So that's my thought. And again, I'm a guy. I also had the over in game one too. So I thought it was a spot where teams are people are overemphasizing the team's defensive prowess. So
Hey, they could be up 30-20 in the first quarter, you
Yeah.
know.
Oh, no, I know.
With
I just
50 total points. I'm going by the whole game total. So
I listen. Whenever I
Yeah.
like a team, and if I'm taking a team to win, I need as many points as possible. So I need them to hit it. I need them to hit the total by themselves. You know?
yeah, well,
So
yeah. You also need them to play defense too. And they've shown the ability to do so. It's not
Yes.
like the Celtics have lit them up
No.
on the offensive end in the first two games. Jesse, your thoughts?
Yeah, I normally agree with Sean, but I'm kind of thinking the opposite. I'm kind of thinking that if you like the under, Ross, your chances of hitting the under are better if in a Dallas win than they are in a Boston win. Because and maybe that this is just my own bias, but I'm sort of taking it for granted that Dallas is going to shoot better at home. And if one of these teams is going to continue to struggle, it's going to be Boston. My only issue with it is the shooting has been so bad, the free throw shooting, the 3-point shooting, the overall shooting, that eventually, I hate to say but I do expect Boston to start hitting, or sorry, I do expect Dallas to start hitting some shots. And it is, for me, a little bit tough to count on Tatum going 1 for 7 from beyond the arc every game, and such poor shooting on both sides. But
Yeah.
I don't really have a strong opinion on the total either way.
Again, I'm going to take under 212.5. I know a lot of you guys out there like to who don't like the fact that I just want to beat a number, and you want to talk about players, and you want to talk about who cares, Ross, about these betting angles you give since 2003. Well, you know what, folks? The proof is in the pudding. I'm a numbers guy. I'm since the 2022 playoffs. I'm 117-70, which is just a shade under 63%. I'm 40-23 this year during the postseason. And numbers don't lie and liars don't figure. You guys have heard me say that numerous times, and I'll continue to say it. I'm not going to be right all the time using these formulas and just trying to beat a number the way I do. I don't get caught up in players on both sides. That's for fantasy players. That's for guys on when I see these guys on ESPN when they're doing a betting breakdown, or some of these cable channels that hire these guys out of college that aren't qualified to be sports betting experts. They just can't get an anchor job. So learn about sports betting, and they start talking about players. Again, folks, it's all baked into the line. It is. Bottom line is it is. So somebody commented on the Orioles game yesterday that Chip and Doug did and they said, well, the catcher from the Orioles is out, and I can't think of his name. It starts with an R, and I don't know.
Rushman.
Yeah. And it's all baked into the line, folks. I had Baltimore as a free pick on another channel, and they won easily. So, again, I can't emphasize enough, Sean. We're out to beat a number here. We're not ESPN. We're not going to pronounce every name right, but we are very good at quote unquote beating a number. We just go about it in different ways. Go ahead.
Everyone gets this wrapped up into it's like one game to them.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you can't do that. This guy's pitching today. Oh, what are you talking about? This guy's,
Yeah.
who's stopping? He's going to throw 350 yards today. Who's going to stop this runner? And I say, like, who cares about that? I don't care about that. It's the number. It's always the number, folks.
Yes.
That's what it is. I don't care who wins. Like, you get an argument with people like, oh, how can you say this team's better than that? It's one game.
Yeah.
It's one game out of 162. It's one game out of 7. Or now it's one game out of 3 or 4 that's left. That's what separates people who want to make money and people are just having fun and just doing stuff because there's games on TV.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't worry about that. That's the number.
Whether it be an NBA betting angle, an NFL betting angle, a college football betting angle, the reason why that's part of my arsenal. It's not the sole reason why I make a pick. A lot of it has to do with perception. A lot of it has to do with, a line adjustment. A lot of it has to do with how teams do after this, that, or the other thing. And we're not talking about specific teams with betting angles. We're talking about all teams in all situations. So again, folks, and that requires a little bit of smarts to do, because you have to run database queries. Not everybody's capable of doing that, and it's okay. These two guys I work with today don't do that, but they get it done. But you don't hear them criticizing me or me criticizing them for how they got their end results. Because as long as you win, but you do realize when we're talking about these types of situations, we're all about beating a number. You know what I'm saying? Now, Jesse gets into props, okay? That's a different animal, okay? That's more fantasy thinking kind of thing. And there's more thought to process to that as well beyond fantasy, is because he's looking at tendencies of players and where they are, and not. And again, we get too caught up, even when we're looking at point spreads, of looking at teams' overall statistics for the year, and we failed to, some of us, or not us, for example, but a lot of you out there, failed to take a look at what's been going on recently, and how a team or a player is trending when it comes to props. So, Jesse, any final thoughts, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, the props is real complicated stuff, Ross. I don't think you quite understand it.
Okay. Well, explain to me why I don't understand it.
I'm just joking. I just felt like saying it. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah. No, I look, I'm not a props player. It is. I mean, all I know is I don't hear you talking about overall props, overall statistics for players. You're talking about what you've seen recently.
I think what you'll see from me, Ross, is I'll go short term, mid term, long term. So
Yeah.
if I'm going to talk about overall numbers, I'm going to say this is how this team or player has performed short term, mid term, long term, and use it all together. Like I always say, it's a stack of evidence. You're not using any one criteria.
It's something that looks like this, folks. That's your note. My notes when as opposed to Sean, who just shoots from the hip.
I got notes.
Oh, he does have notes. There we go. And no, Jesse, I don't make.
I do a lot of shooting from the hips, but I do write down some numbers sometimes.
You do very well with props, and I do want you to misread that. I know you were joking, but what you just said, what you just described, short term, mid, whatever terms you used, you layered it three ways, is exactly what I was trying to say. And that applies to our sports handicapping, just picking a point spread or a total. It applies the same way. But some guys are better in certain areas than others. I'm not saying that's the case with you. I do. I don't put time into worrying about props. There's so much time in a day. Some people do and are very good at it, and Jesse's one of them. Is that fair?
Hey, Jess, are you a big NFL prop guy or not so much?
A
little bit, yeah.
Super Bowl for sure.
Yeah.
I love the Super Bowl props. Certain times early on in the season, I've found like the touchdown props, the anytime touchdown scores, those usually by about week 3 or week 4, when the bookmakers have isolated the players that are most likely to score, they just get way overpriced. But in the first few weeks, there might be some value there. I mean, essentially, I'm looking at all aspects of sports betting, everything that the bookmaker's offering, and looking for a loophole, looking for something that they are offering that they probably that they're offering too cheap, or they're a little bit off on their lines. And as they tighten them up, that's why I look for the player props usually in the Super Bowl, because there's a lot of because everybody's betting on the Super Bowl. There's so many different options. You can usually find a few good ones in the beginning of the season before they tighten up the lines. In fact, I don't know if you guys noticed, I posted on Twitter yesterday my record in the first month of the season for college football the last 2 years: 38-10, 79%. And people are going to ask me, well, how come you don't hit 79% all year then? And my answer would be, by week 5, the bookmakers have tightened up those lines. You can be ahead of the game in week 1, 2, 3 because you've done your homework and you've poured over this stuff all summer. But by week 4, everybody knows everything, and all those lines are tightened up. So I think more money to be made early on in the season.
Yeah, my NFL in the month of September over the last 3 years is in the high 60s, low 70s. Don't quote me exactly on the percentage. It's real good. It's not 79, which is outstanding, but the same thing. Again, the books at the beginning of a football season don't have a grasp, an accurate grasp, in my opinion. Look, at the end of the day, if we think we're smarter than an odds maker, that's going to be your first mistake. You have to respect the odds makers, but not fear them. But you also take into account human element that how when they set a line in week 1, in week 2, what do they have to go on? You have a lot of roster turnover. There's always a team that gets off to a hot start that ends up with a terrible record at the season's end. There's also those overvalued teams early on that if you could spot those, and Jesse, I think you agree, we look for overvalued and undervalued teams early on as part of our handicapping process to arrive at those successful results we're talking about. But Sean, I'll let you chime in on this as well.
See, sometimes I kind of struggle out of the gate with my college and NFL football in September because I'm such a dog kind of guy. Like I grabbed the Broncos. They opened at 6.5. They're 5 now against Seattle. So like I find myself getting better as we go into November, December, really peaking into like the 63% range weekly. Because at that point, I'm just
which is even more impressive because that's when the lines, like Jesse just said, they're real tight and sharp.
It's weird. Like I just look at like last year, like 54% NFL, 51% college for the month. But then you go the whole season, it gets a little better. I kind of like set like I got my ways to attack, and I really don't change. And I always tell my wife, like when I get into contests out in Vegas, I'm like, I got to switch my September models, right? I got to just.
Well, I was going to say that, Sean, if I could make any suggestion, maybe you're getting off to subpar starts compared to what you do for the entire season because you're making picks like you just alluded to 4 months in advance. I mean, I get getting down early and having a better number, but I think that's, I have to question. Again, I'm not overly criticizing you, but you're talking about slow starts. And from my experience, maybe, hold off to maybe a month before at least.
I did well, not even that, but even just for like taking dogs early. Like I feel like the dogs more come out to play as the season progresses, right? Because everybody's like, not that like we make jokes like the books, the Lorgne, and here come all the faves out of the gate. Looks easy. Wow, how can you take that team against so and so? That's stupid. And then all right, I'll take it. I'll roll out those 4-4s or 4-6 weeks, and then all of a sudden it's 6-3, 7-3, 8-2, 5-0s because I'll stick with the dogs in a number. Or not, I shouldn't say dogs, but most times early it's I'm getting her my dog plays.
Especially in college football in week 1, and even in week 2, you're always going to find a line or two that just doesn't make sense,
And now we have whole new conferences and matchups.
Yeah, I mean, you got a MAC team that's +9 on the road against a power school. What is it? Power 4 now they call it because of this realignment and with the Pac-12 not being in existence anymore. Guys know what I'm saying. Yep. There's always that one that jumps out where the novice guy will look and say, wait a minute, Ohio University is only a 14-point underdog against Syracuse on the road.
Akron plus 50 against Ohio State.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, all right, Jesse, tell the folks a little bit what you might have coming up this week and refresh their memory in terms of anything you want to talk about as far as being hot.
Well, I am not hot, but that just means the next hot streak is about to kick off. And we got the Euros starting out in a couple days here. I think Friday is the first game of the European Championships. Scotland taking on Germany in Germany, the host nation. So I will be making picks on the Euros and, of course, NBA Finals, NHL Finals. My baseball hasn't been bad at all. I've got a winning record with baseball so far, and looking to carry that on for the rest of the summer.
And God help me and Sean if there's one of those Euro games going on when you have to tape a show with us where you got that one hook look. Jesse's got that like one eye that goes up and raises up, and he's trying to watch the television set at the same time. And then when you ask him a question, he doesn't answer it directly. What he does, Sean, is he thinks about, okay, I don't know what he just asked me, but I feel like talking about this. But anyway, Sean.
What are we talking about? I was looking at my other screen. Most times when I'm looking at the other screen, I'm looking at a bunch of odds for the games we're talking about. Speaking of which, of odds, a lot of baseball for me. So, what do we have? We have basically 6 games of NBA and NHL left, if we're lucky. Actually, 4 games maybe, right? Because both teams are up 2-0. I'm already in baseball mode. So 300 games bet, up a little bit of money. It's all baseball going forward. Who are we kidding? I'm not a big soccer guy. I don't pretend I know the pitch. Nothing. No, if I want to watch soccer, I'm going to turn on Victory with Sylvester Stallone and Michael Caine, where they're, Pele's in it. It's fabulous. A bunch of guys who played soccer in the 70s. I don't know my soccer. I'm sorry, folks. Give me some
That's
MLB.
okay. Jesse does, and
Got you covered here at Gamblers World.
I
You
played
get
it
Jesse
right.
for your
I
soccer.
played it right through college, and I don't dabble in the soccer betting because I don't get into anything that I'm not where I think is I'm well schooled at or can spend the amount of time that's needed to be successful.
There's so many leagues.
Yeah, well, that in terms of I look at it from a business standpoint too. It's why I don't dabble into the NHL during regular season action, is because I don't know how to put less time into a specific sport that I handicap or shortcut the process just because there's not a lot of business to be had from that. So that's my school of thought. And when you work on your own, there's so much time in a day. But Jesse does it very well. He does props very well. And at the end of this conversation, people are going to say, boy, Jesse's a lot more intelligent guy than Ross and Sean because he expands himself on all these different avenues. And you would be right in saying that.
Yeah.
And Ross, there's only so much time in the day. That's why you got to get in watching the soccer game while you're doing the live show with Ross and Sean. That's
All
how
right.
you get it all done.
All right, so Sean, as I see the schedule, and correct me if I'm wrong, it'll be you, Jesse, and Chip Chirimbus tomorrow, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
it will be.
All right, and you're the host tomorrow.
I'll be taking over your commander's chair.
Until tomorrow, when Sean will be your host. Take care and God bless, folks.